One afternoon at Woodland, I watched two of our janitors drill a hole in the playground blacktop. They installed a tall aluminum pole and anchored it into the ground with cement. One of the janitors attached a long string to a hook at the very top of the pole, then attached what appeared to be a volleyball to the other end of the string. Without much fanfare, the internationally ignored sport of tetherball had come to Stowe. None of us knew exactly how the game was supposed to be played, but eventually the PE teacher did take us outside and explain the basic rules of tetherball. At long last, here was a game that made as little sense as possible, and we actually stood in line waiting to play it. The best part was that helpless feeling at the very end, as you watched your opponent wrap that ball around the pole at lightning speed. One version of tetherball started out as a straight punch service, with the goal being to get past the other player and wrap the entire cord around the pole in a certain direction. This could be done through brute force or finesse, depending on the player's anger management skills. The other version called for the ball to swing slowly around the pole a few times in one player's direction, and then players could pounce on the ball at will. This was the version of tetherball that confused me the most. What other game on earth started with one team watching helplessly as the other team loaded most of the bases? That three-turn advantage was devilishly hard to overcome, yet we would dutifully watch the ball wind around the pole like lemmings until that third spin. Tetherball was clearly a game sold to school administrators, not to the kids. One game, unique to Woodland, was not really a game at all, but more of a dare. The back of the school's designated playground extended into a small woods. In order to keep students from wandering too far into those woods, rings were painted on several trees to serve as borders. The woods on one side of those border trees looked pretty much like the woods on the other side, but rules were rules. We were not to travel beyond those ringed trees, ever, ever, ever. Of course, there was no faster way to get some of us to disobey a school rule than by telling us not to do it. By the time I was in 5th grade, the mythology of the land beyond the painted trees had become huge. There were stories of evil men who kidnapped trespassing children, who were of course never seen again. That was a good one for me. I would sometimes even stand guard near the ringed trees and look for anyone even a little suspicious. There were also tales of bears or coyote packs hiding in those woods, just waiting for free kids' meals. Perhaps the best deterrents were all of those apocryphal stories about the punishment that awaited anyone who was caught behind those trees. In the unspoken Woodland criminal codes, crossing over into the forbidden zone during school hours was at the top of the list. I knew a few people who paid dearly for that brief taste of life outside the compound. I found out later, however, that there was a nice little trail that ran through those woods, and it ended at one of the least scariest places in Stowe, the Stowe-Kent Shopping Center. The school system spent years scaring us away from Cressy's department store and the A&P.